fruit. So, in that spirit, where exactly did this gem of a fruit come from? And not only that, turns out during my research, I found out that it's not just us, guys. A lot of people in history loved the fruit. And I'm talking about some real big people here, okay? I'll be telling you all the different times mangoes have been mentioned in history and what people are saying about them. Hi, my name is Misha and welcome to Tarihi Tales. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, and if you want to help support this channel, you can do so by going to my Patreon. Okay, so historical records and paleobotanical research basically shows a lot of proof that the mangoes originated somewhere from the Indo-Burma Malay region. And the word mango, according to a researcher called Crawford, is actually a corruption of the word manga, which was used initially by the people of the Malay region, but was kind of picked up by traders in other areas, especially in the port areas of Bantam on the coast of Sumatra. In most Indian sources, though, we see other names for this fruit. It's called amba or anba. There are also some other variations. In the global south, the cultivation of mangoes is more than 4,000 to 6,000 years old. And after a while, the fruit started to travel. And it's said that one of the first people who actually took the mango fruit out of the global south and took it to other regions in the world was the famous traveler Xuanzang. This guy was a Chinese Buddhist monk who traveled through India during the years 629 to 645 Common Era. And this began the travels of the mango fruit. It moved to China by the 7th century, to East Africa around the 10th century, to the Philippines in the beginning of the 15th. It reached Africa during the 16th. It arrived in Brazil in the 1700s. It made its way to Jamaica in the very end of the 18th century. Hawaii and Mexico followed in the 19th century. And at the very end of the 19th century, it made its way over to the Americas. And today, you can find it anywhere in the world. They're not all made equal, but you can definitely find it. Now, as I mentioned, the mango has so many fascinating historical references, and let me take you through a few of them. One of the very first mentions we have of the mango is in the great Indian epic poem, the Ramayana. It's composed in Sanskrit before the year 300 BCE by the poet Valmiki. In this poem, you can see a lot of references to mangoes, mango fruit, mango trees, and we see that a lot of the Hindu customs and practices actually also value the mango tree and the mango fruit for the same reasons. Then comes Alexander the Great. He talks about spotting a pleasant mango garden in the Indus Valley in the year 327 BC during one of his invasions of India. There are also a lot of sculptures that kind of show mangoes, and they date all over the place. There are frequent discoveries of mango sculptures in archaeology, and these are some of the more fascinating ones. This is a 1st century Common Era sculpture from Sanchi Stupa showing monkeys on a mango tree, and it's obviously laden with fruit. Now, this one was found in the 12th century BCE at the Hoysala temple showing Vishnu. There are a lot of mango fruits hanging over his head. Then we have the famous travelers Fahin and Sungyung. Now, these were also Buddhist travelers, and Fahin visited India in the beginning of the 400s, and Sunyun followed a century later in 500s. And it's not like they just came and they went immediately back. Fahin actually stayed in India for almost 10 years. And in both of their notes, they talk about a mango orchard that was presented by Amradrika to Lord Buddha to kind of give him a place to meditate and relax. And then, of course, Xuanzang, we've already talked about him. He was the first guy who kind of took the mango out of India, and he visited during the years 632 to 645 Common Era. And we also have some Arab explorers like Ibn Hawqil and Ibn Battuta. And Ibn Battuta, interestingly, actually talks about eating pickled mangoes, mango achar, along with ginger and green chilies. And he's kind of spelt it out like ambu. And I'm telling you this because a couple of 100 years after Ibn Battuta goes another guy called Ludovici di Verthema, and he visited around the beginning of the 1500s. And this guy also talks about mangoes and the different names a mango has. And he actually references the writings of Ibn Battuta, saying that he calls it Ambu, which is fascinating to him. And then comes Babur, the first Mughal emperor. And this Mughal emperor actually has written a book called the Baburnama, which he wrote by hand and is unlike all the other histories of the court, because this is not a history of the court. It's written like it's his own personal diary. And he talks about the mango fruit being the choicest fruit for the Indian people. And his descendants actually contributed a lot to the development and cultivation of mangoes in the forms that we know of today. And among his descendants comes Akbar. This Mughal emperor single-handedly did the most for mangoes. Near the area Darbhanga, he actually planted a garden called the Lakh Bagh, which is basically an orchard having 100,000 trees of mangoes, because the word Lakh means 100,000. During that time, this was a first because fruit orchards of this scale were not very common at that time. And these trees actually survived the test of time. A man called Charles Maries actually visited this area 300 years later, and he found those trees to be intact and vigorously growing. The origin of the most improved cultivated mangoes of the global south region can actually be traced back to those days. Then we have another book that came out of this era, which is the Ain-e-Akbari. The Ain-e-Akbari gives a detailed account and kind of serves as like an encyclopedia for mangoes. It talks about the different varieties, the characteristics, different tips and tricks to help grow it more sweeter, to kind of also gives like remedies made from mangoes for different illnesses. It's quite interesting. I might just make shorts about the different tips, because adding them here will be too long. Then also the Mughal emperors Shah Jahan and Jahangir also kind of talk about mangoes, and there are instances which are recorded where they kind of awarded their Khansama, which is the cook, for kind of coming up with recipes related to mangoes which are quite different, like Ampana, Am Ka Lauz, Amma Ka Mitha Pilau, which is basically rice, mangoes, a sweet, it's like a dessert. That is the mango story, origins, and a little bit of the history of mango. See you guys next time. Bye.